Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Single No More Online Summit. I'm your host, Andrea Miller, and we are here to give you the tools to feel confident that you can meet and keep your Mr. Right this year. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Yudy, and she is a spiritual guide, international speaker, certified NAP and NLP practitioner, a certified Reiki master, mindfulness coach, and best-selling author with her book, The Becoming of a Light Warrior, a practical guide to emotional breakthroughs. She has helped hundreds of women break through emotional pain, self-imposed limitations, and relieve chronic stress in a short period of time. And we're going to get into that because she was actually my first coach. So that's why I'm so excited to have her. She is known as the Joyful Shaman and says that finding joy is the key to life. So welcome, Yudy, my favorite person. How are you?
I love that. Thank you. I can say the same thing about you. You're one of my favorite clients. I am so happy to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, so happy to have you. And we were just talking earlier that I think what I'm so excited about where I'm at right now, and obviously engaged and through my kind of relationship struggles, is that you are, and we haven't really spoken much since you coached me a few years ago, but you can say that you can actually see a physical difference with how I am now based on who I was. And tell us a little bit about what you saw then and what you're seeing now.
Well, the first thing is when I saw you now, it was like this amazing transformation that is so obvious, but not because you have a long hair or because you look this way or that way. It's not a physical transformation, but it's an inner transformation. And I can see that change in energy. It's very obvious that it did happen. Because when I remember the first time you came to me, right, you were like, well, I don't do coaching. I don't do that. I think I can, deal with my own things myself. I'm very reliable. Do you remember that?
Oh
I'm
yeah,
very,
sounds right. Sounds right.
yes. And then I said, so why you came to me? And what is it that you said?
I think I just said, I just can't figure this shit out. Like, why can't I commit to it? I have a perfect man in front of me, but I can't seem to, it's almost like he's exactly what I'm asking for, but it doesn't feel right. And it doesn't feel like it's the one. And I really just wanted to figure out and have you help me understand what could I possibly be doing wrong? What am I not seeing? Because obviously I was 38 at that point and I was struggling. I was in pain. I didn't know why love wasn't happening for me.
And it's so interesting because the first thing that I remember our first session was when you said all that stuff. And I asked you about this person who you were dating, right? And the way you describe it, I say, well, love is happening for you. You're just not able to see it. You're not able to receive that love because one of the things when I work with a lot of women with the same, type of situation. One of the things that I see happening is if you're not in love with yourself, like if you don't appreciate who you are and you don't embrace the totality of who you are, you're going to have a hard time being able to receive love from somebody else. So you can have the perfect partner right in front of you and not able, like that was your situation, and not able to appreciate it because you were not at ease with yourself. You were not accepting of yourself, and you have what I call an incorrect perception of the self.
Yes, it was quite clear. It was, and like we were saying before, it was a very painful time, even though again, it was hard for me to admit, but I was definitely struggling. And I think even like you were saying, the fact that I was saying to myself, I'm happy with myself, what's wrong with me? That was probably a lot of the issue. It was that all I had to really do, which I've obviously realized now, and this is what I want to share with the audience, is that a lot of the huge transformation was literally just me accepting myself in terms of like we said, really loving myself. But you and we got into some deep stuff as to the fact that I had a really critical and judgmental mom. And she said, don't go out of the house without makeup on. No guy's going to want to date you. And don't work out so much because guys aren't going to be attracted to big thighs and you're too intimidating to men. And so off the back of that, I think I was just always in this fight to want to have somebody who was going to accept me exactly the way I was, even though what we realized was I wasn't accepting me for the way I was. And I was seeking that validation, and I was like, it was draining me.
Yeah, and this is one of the major challenges that we face as a women, but also men face the same situation, right?
Mhm.
But as a women, we hear all this criticism ever since we're a little child. I mean, from the time that you are in your mother's womb to where you are 75% of all your belief system and foundation is created during that time.
Mhm.
So if you constantly listening to criticism and look at your tide and don't wear, like, if you don't wear makeup, who's gonna pay attention to you? And you're a plain Jane. A lot of people say this, and realize that parents do this out of love. They don't do this because they want to make you feel bad about yourself. They want to sort of protect you and create certain like standards that they
Mhm.
think that if you follow them that you're gonna be okay. But what happened is then we convince ourselves, like, then think about that. You become, you're 7, you start growing, listening to this thing. Now you become 13, you become a teenager, you go to school, and now people start, making fun of you. And in the past, like as a child, it was like a game. But then as a teenager, you start internalizing those criticism
Mhm.
as, oh my God, this is true.
Mhm.
It's true. I have huge tide. It's true. To this and to that. And you create an incorrect perception of who you are. And so
Mhm.
this is why we're having so many challenges with body image, right? I mean, and then we start comparing ourselves to other people. Now
Mhm.
with social media and everything that is going on, there's a
Mhm.
lot of comparison and like, look, she looks so amazing, and why is it that I cannot look like that? And so the thing is, think about this. If you're not able to accept yourself for who you are, not able to love yourself and appreciate yourself for who you are, then how is it that we're expecting somebody else to do it for us? And then what happened is, if that person like do a little criticism, like a comment, like an innocent comment, then that will trigger that emotion in you of
Mhm.
like not being enough, not feeling good about yourself. And right there you start doubting, is this the right guy? What's wrong with me? This is not happening for me. But because of that, because of those fears and insecurities are still there. And a lot of issues is the inability to ask for help,
Mhm.
the inability for people to ask for help to solve this issue, to get to the root cause of this issue.
And I think you make a good point, because at that point, I certainly didn't feel like there was anything that needed to be healed. Um, and
I remember.
yeah, trust me, exactly. Um, and it's interesting how you put that, because I remember thinking, it's almost like at that point the guy can't win. He shows me love, but I can't receive it. I don't know that I can't, but I can't receive it. I'm thinking like, you need to prove it to me, you know, all this stuff, but yet I can't receive it anyway. So he's at a loss. But then he does something that triggers me, because clearly I'm quite sensitive about certain areas, and then I get mad at him, and I'm almost looking for every reason to convince myself that he's not right. And therefore I completely am just, again,
Yeah.
I now see it as self-sabotaging. And
Yes.
but I was so convinced that I was doing it all right, and it wasn't me. And so I guess my question to you is, how can someone like work out whether there's something in there that needs healing? What's kind of that first step? Or like you're saying, is it literally just go to someone and just talk to them about what's happening, and they'll be able to help you identify it? What do you think?
Well, the first thing is to understand I call it red flags. First of all, the barriers. There's barriers that are, not allowing you to have everything that you want, not only in relationship, but even in business. As a, women's in business and all that, there's barriers that are self-imposed barrier that we're not able to see because we are so into the situation that we almost like blinded, right? But like they're red flags, sort of like if you're a person who's always doubting yourself, if always second guessing yourself, high stress, anxiety, feeling that there's something is wrong with you, that you can never get it right. If you are the kind of person that always saying, oh, I'm keep on attracting the same jerks, but I don't know why, I don't know why I'm attracting these people. You know what, that's a good question to ask. Why are you attracting those people? Because they're not coming to you about randomly. Nothing happened randomly. And
Mm-hmm.
so the idea is that when we feel that way, and you now can see the difference,
Mm-hmm.
because now you feel so different from that, and you look and I can see it, that you were different from that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, for instance, in the American culture, and I say that because I'm American now, but I come from another culture, so I know,
Mm-hmm.
the different in behavior. Like in American culture, people don't talk about their emotions. They are afraid of it, because if they talk about it, um, they're gonna be afraid. They're gonna be judged. They're gonna be criticized. They're gonna be, oh, I'm weak. Asking for help is like a no. I should be able to figure this thing out. And
Yeah.
the idea is that the first thing to understand is that we're human beings, and
Mm-hmm.
because we're human beings, we have emotions, and
Mm-hmm.
we have emotion that we call it imprinted emotion. And I'm a shaman, and so in shamanism we call it imprinted emotions. So
Mm-hmm.
these are imprinted in your subconscious mind. And so even if you try, for instance, a lot of people do positive affirmation, and it's not that they don't work, but if you have a, let's say, something inside yourself, like something that happened to you, an experience, a root cause that created these emotions, then it doesn't matter how many times you say, I'm enough, I'm enough, I'm enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not going to happen, because that needs to be healed. It needs to be released, right? And so the idea is that we have this thing where, like, we are afraid to ask for help, to reach out. And
Mm-hmm.
so the first thing is understanding those red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And if you feel like your partner, for instance, if you feel like you're being criticized a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, he never find anything pretty in me, he never thinks that I'm doing the right thing, or he's always criticizing me. If
Mm-hmm.
you feel that way, right, you
Mm-hmm.
need to really, because that's the other thing, is blaming the other person. Oh, he is not capable of loving,
Mm-hmm.
he's emotionally unavailable. I think that's the word you used before, I remember.
Yeah,
He's
he
emotionally unavailable.
he
And
wasn't vulnerable
the
enough.
idea is, but if I'm emotionally unavailable, right, I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to start projecting the same feeling. It's like a loop effect, like a
And
mirror.
it was so hard, and that's what I think I was trying to do at that time. I was trying to change him. I was trying to get him to open up, be more vulnerable. When I really looked at it, it was like I probably wasn't being vulnerable because I was scared, like you're saying. I was probably just protecting myself. I know enough. And the same thing back to that, when I realizing we worked out that my major thing was acceptance, because my mom, I didn't feel like was accepting me as I was. She was always trying to change me. Don't cut your hair, don't color it, why are you doing that, wear this, wear that. So when I realized that, then okay, clearly then I'm then seeking that acceptance or validation in other men. But then when I turned it on myself and gave myself the acceptance that I know I'm amazing, like I'm beautiful, I've done a lot, I've traveled the world, I've started a business, like I've achieved so many things. I go, why am I seeking this from somebody else? I am my own best cheerleader. The minute I then did that validation from not only him, so he was like off the hook, and I was like, oh, you're amazing then. But then I was also had this fear that I was always going to probably cheat on my relationship, because I was always being tempted for that validation. So the minute I didn't need that anymore, it just relieved another fear of mine of being unfaithful, which I didn't want to do. And that's why it took me so long to try to, like, commit. But it was just from that one shift, and that one, like, just by going, like you're saying, just love yourself and love yourself wholly. And yeah, you don't need it necessarily from everybody else, but then you can, the big shift then, though, like you're always saying, and this is the linchpin, is then I was able to receive it. And that's where I think a lot of us women, we're not attracted to those good guys because they're giving us the love that we want, but we're not able
But
to.
we like the bad boys. We do
Yeah,
love the bad
yeah.
boys, because deep
Mhm,
inside, think about this. If you feel undeserving,
mhm.
right? But this is not something you will know consciously. This is a
Right.
subconscious trigger.
I didn't know. Yeah.
Exactly. Because if I would have tell you, like I remember at the beginning,
Hmm.
the first thing is like I remember you say, I'm good. I don't have any issues. I'm good. I remember you said, just teach me how to meditate. This is what I need. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, uh-huh. And when we start going deep into, childhood situation, because the other thing is we diminish our experiences. Like when we talk about trauma, people think it's being sexually abused, and those are big traumas. Like I was sexually abused and that impacted me
Mm.
deeply, right?
Mhm.
But then they tend to see like, oh, what happened to me? I had a good childhood.
Right.
And
I
you
totally said
did
that.
had a great childhood. It wasn't that it wasn't good, but then there's certain behavior that impacted you, that you integrated and you actually convinced yourself all that stuff. And then people think because I didn't have like big trauma, I don't have these big issues, then I don't need help, right? But you
Mhm.
see how that just shifting that perception
Mhm.
when we did that regression, right? Like even before going into the regression, you were like, because we do this thing also where we are justifying the people that we love,
Mhm.
because we have to separate the behavior from the person. Meaning, your mother is a great mom, right? But she did this stuff out of love, but
Mhm.
she didn't know that she was hurting you,
Mhm.
right? But the behavior was hurting you. So
Mhm.
when we're able to separate those two things, then we can work with them, because we are afraid to be judging those people that we love.
Yeah.
But
And
when we went into the regression, it was like, when you came back, it was almost as if you were able to look at the situation in a different way.
mhm.
It was like, wow, I had no idea that that impacted me in such a way that it was sabotaging my relationship today, after
Mhm.
how many years, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's the problem, that people have a hard time asking for help because they're diminishing their own experiences,
Yeah. I mean,
because it was.
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, your father passed away when you were 7 years old. And from my perspective, I didn't have to go through that. So I absolutely would have been doing that and saying, well, I don't have any big things that went on. So what, they don't, I couldn't believe that just anything, something as simple as that could be affecting my relationships now and just how I interacted and what I was looking for. And again, it's not even like it impacted my relationships. It was impacting my just everyday happiness. And it's just, again, it's always mind blowing how that
It
can.
is, the subconscious mind is like a fascinating subject. It is.
Mhm. So my question to you too is, you also talk in the book about how we can go on autopilot, and I think that's what a lot of us do. And what do you think? Like, to me, it's almost a very dangerous place. That would almost be like a red flag in my mind. Is going, I'm just going through the motions. I'm not feeling. I'm just going. Why do we do this?
Mhm. Well, we do that because, first of all, what we said before, we diminish like our experiences, thinking, well, I didn't go through so much, so I shouldn't feel that way. The first thing is negating the emotion. I shouldn't feel that way. I have everything to be happy. I have the job, and I have the partner, or looking for the partner, or a potential partner, and I have the car, and I have this, and I have that, and I should be grateful. This is the first thing we say to ourselves. I should be okay. I shouldn't feel this way. And so we negate the whole feeling, the
Mm-hmm.
idea that something is off, but you want to avoid it, you want to deny it, because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's like, well, it wasn't a big deal. Like it was not a big deal. It was okay. And this is when we go into autopilot. It's almost as we do that we're afraid to face the pain, because we
Mm-hmm.
think, if we realize, we take responsibility and we say, well, there must be something that is not working, and maybe I need to do something about that. Then it's like, oh God, it's like, oh my God, it's that realization that, guess what, you do need some help, you do need some work, and it's not the end of the world. And so people go into autopilot because it's for them, in their head, it's easier.
Mm-hmm.
When you are in pain and
Mm-hmm.
you're not able to just to be okay with that notion,
Mm-hmm.
then you go into survival mode.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into survival mode, you are on autopilot. And if any of your audience is listening to this and
Mm-hmm.
you feel that's right now in your life, you go into the motion of things without feeling,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not only a red flag, it's a sign that something is totally off. And because guess what, life, it was meant to be lived, to be enjoyed,
Mm-hmm.
not to go through the motions. That's not normal. And
Mm,
somehow in our culture now is sort of like made it normal, like
yeah.
being stressed out, being anxious is sort of like, oh, everybody's anxious, everybody. Guess what, not everybody is. I'm not.
Yeah, I'm
So
not
so
anymore.
it's not normal,
Yeah.
and the rest not, so it's not normal.
Yeah.
So if that's the case that you're going through, and on top of that you're trying to find a partner, guess what, you're going to attract all the wrong people.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. It's a kind of like an avoidance tactic. And like you said, I mean, I will wholeheartedly agree that going through pain is not, and it's very easy for us to distract from it. I mean, like you said in the book here, I love it. You said, there's a point in our life, there's a point where we complicate our lives, ignore our hearts, and clutter our minds with endless rules and beliefs about what life is supposed to look or feel like. And that's pretty much exactly what you were just saying. And it's almost like I said, I think it's like you were saying, if something isn't working, if something doesn't feel right, if what you're doing or achieving is not giving you the satisfaction that you think it would, time to kind of stop and take a sense check and think about, it's almost like take inventory, right? Like what are we doing here? And this is where, again, we're going to say, yeah, you might have to face some painful things, but I swear to you, like, it is definitely like the pot of gold on the other side. I am
Yeah.
just, it is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, the basis of psychology, or regular psychology, is that human beings avoid pain. They run away from pain
Mm,
toward pleasure. But then the idea is, if you think about you, like, at least for me, that's true for me,
yeah.
is that we come into this planet, right? This beautiful, amazing planet. And we don't want to suffer. We don't want to make mistake. We don't want to go through pain.
Mm,
But in order for us to develop and to evolve and to become, satisfied and feel great and feel happy, we need to go through all those experiences.
mm,
But the problem is, what happening is, people are not stopping and
mhm,
doing self-reflection. They're not learning
mm,
from their past,
mm,
because they're in this state of like, oh, I shouldn't done that. That was wrong. No, I made a mistake. It's the end of the world. Oh my God, what are they gonna think? And they going through that craziness and this anxiety type of thing, and then that does not allow the person to look at the thing objectively and say, what did I learn from that?
mm.
You see, if we can do that with any experience, I am actually, in the book,
Yeah,
I
you say
talk
it in the book.
about the self compassion,
Yeah.
the three questions for self compassion, and one of them is, what I'm learning from this, what is this teaching me?
Yep, you said any negative experience. If you think of any negative experience in your past, yes, obviously it's coming to mind because it's negative. But you then you switch it. You go, what are the three things that I also learned from that? And I just thought that was so powerful because, exactly like you were saying, for some reason um, like you said, we're almost trained to see the bad versus seeing the good. Why do we do that?
Well, because of, if you think about it, it's part of our DNA. It's something that we learn. It's a survival mode thing. Like, we learned that to survive in the cave time, cavemen, right? They have to be fast. They were hunting and something was, behind them, an animal, a lion. They have to run,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Mm-hmm.
so that we have that survival mode sort of like imprinted. It's part of who we are. Part of it's called the reptilian brain, right? But the idea is that no, there's nothing. There's no lions chasing us anymore. There's
Right,
just a
right,
car behind us
right,
honking, but we're reacting the same way. We're
right,
going to that survival mode, or we just have our mom criticizing us and saying,
right.
if you don't wear makeup, who's gonna pay attention to you? And that will trigger the same state. And
Mm,
so this is something that is ingrained in us, because it's I call it the ego, like our ego identification. And we do need the ego, because people think, oh, I don't have an ego. We all do have an ego, we do. The idea is to have a healthy ego, because the ego, what is the job of the ego? Well, it's to keep you alive.
mhm,
Because if we wouldn't have that survival mode, we're going to be jumping from planes,
mhm. Yeah, and it makes
and
sense.
like in putting ourselves in danger situation.
Mm,
So yeah, so we do need that. The problem is that when that ego and that survival become your normal, that's the
yeah,
problem.
Yeah. And then so that makes a lot of sense to go, okay, from our history, just how we're brought up, we need to be aware of the dangers. Right now, our perceived dangers are stress or something that isn't a lion chasing us. So we're going to be, it's almost like we just need to understand that that's going to pop up, but then we can literally go, it's all good, no problem, don't need to pay attention to it. But then are we forcing ourselves to pay attention to the good?
No, it's basically is what I, part of my teaching when I work with somebody is teaching them mindfulness, right? And what is mindfulness? So it's the ability to evolve consciously, right? To make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So everything in life is how you, what kind of meaning you are giving the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say that your partner is asking you, Andrea, why are you wearing that dress, right? Or that color doesn't sit you well, right? If you're in survival mode, right away you're going to react as if, oh my God, he doesn't like it. He's always saying all negative, awful things about me, and why is it? What do I need to do to make him happy, and those type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that we have certain trigger, the idea is to stop, right? Just to stop before you watch the thoughts coming, because they start forming, the ego start talking.
Yeah.
Watch the little voice. We all have the little voice talking to us.
Yeah.
Watch that voice talk and then challenge the voice. You don't have to agree with her. You can go ahead and say, well, you know what? I can ask more questions. I can ask him, like, why don't you like this color on me? And then have like more information so that I can make an informed decision,
Yeah.
and not just acting from impulse.
Yeah.
And so the idea is to be able to challenge that little ego voice,
Yeah.
and put that ego in place. Say, you know what? Yeah, I'm very appreciative that what you're trying to do here, protect me. But
Mm-hmm.
guess what? He's not saying that because he hates me or because he doesn't think I'm pretty. Maybe it's just the color doesn't sit right. That's it.
Yeah, or
And
maybe it doesn't go with his outfit that he's wearing and he wanted to match me. I don't know.
or whatever. I don't have enough information to
Right.
create an opinion, and therefore I need more information. And this is where communication comes in.
Mm-hmm.
You see, when we talk about relationship, everybody's talk about communication is the key, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what question to ask.
Right. Right. It's just so we don't immediately jump to a conclusion and form something and store it in our brain as
The narrative.
negative, which again, subconsciously was probably, finding, because we always see what we put our focus on, right?
Yep.
But it's all how it's all like I was saying before, you're the first port of call for yourself, and however it decides to come into your internal being is up to you, which is again just so powerful. And I love in your book when you say change is a part of life, but transformation is a choice. And that's where it's like, it just, I'm just saying, if
Don't you get goosebumps when you
I
hear
do,
that?
I do.
It's so powerful. It is,
It is.
because if you look at you can see changes is always happening,
Mm,
night and day. Every day we have a new day. Today is what, Friday, tomorrow is Saturday. The time is changing, the seasons are changing, we are changing, right? And
which is
so there
okay, you
is
were saying, right? It's okay to change.
change is the only constant, it's the only truth.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're afraid of change, guess what? Then that's a red flag. We need to work on that,
Mm-hmm.
because change is the only constant. And we are so afraid of change. But if you look at nature, nature is always changing. Winter now here in New York, nature doesn't say, oh, it's winter, I need to do, like, let's stop it. No, it's like goes with it, because we live in cycles, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the spring will come at one point, and we're going to be okay with that too. But the human being is always trying to stop change,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so
Right.
change is the only constant. Now, if you want to truly transform,
Mm-hmm.
to truly have a happy life, to have an amazing partner, an amazing relationship, an amazing business, a thriving business, then you truly need to make a transformation. And that's something that you can choose.
Right.
Only you can do that,
Right.
because you're going to change. You're going to change for bad or for good, whether you like it or no, you're going to change.
Mm-hmm.
But transform, you can decide that consciously if you want to.
And I think that's so powerful because that's something that can happen right now. It's not like when the guy comes along or when this situation pops up or when I make enough money. It's like you can just do that today. I can all of a sudden be grateful today. And I love our comment earlier. You said, if you want anything to happen in life, you must love yourself. And that's why we're saying it's the transformation. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but what you're trying to do is just give yourself that ultimate unconditional love. And I thought of this the other day. I think it just spurred from reading your book, but it's like we all get brought up that, you know, we're going to have this ultimate love and this unconditional love. And it's something we dream about when we're young. And I think, again, you know, looking at media and movies and everything, I thought it was going to come from another person. And I was totally expecting that. And I think I was putting so much pressure on who this one was going to be. And he must be the most amazing thing, like Matthew McConaughey and Ryan Gosling all in one. Oh my God. And maybe Channing Tatum.
I love that.
Right. So, but then I actually when I actually really understood what, you know, self-compassion really meant. And all of a sudden I was like my best cheerleader and I have my back 100%. I was like, oh my God, that's like the unconditional love that we're all seeking, which I can give to myself and get. And then we get these relationships and everything and accomplishments on top of that. And so I thought, oh my gosh, like that was the shift in perspective. It was like that actually, I can feel it with someone else, but it's ultimately going to come from me. And the minute it does, game changer, like total game
It
changer.
is, and I will say we have to blame Disney for that, for creating that sort of like idealistic type of
Yeah.
love that is going to be a prince rescuing you because
I
poor
know.
you as a woman need to be
Oh,
rescued and all that type of thing. And I do enjoy the movies. I do. I watch them. Okay,
yeah,
so it's
yeah,
okay to watch
yeah,
them,
yeah.
but it's the understanding that if you truly don't love yourself, if you truly don't know yourself, we have this expectation that somebody else, like people marry other people because they want that to find that happiness. Like they think if I marry somebody, then it's their responsibility. They're responsible for my happiness, and
Mm-hmm.
that can never be the case. It can never be the case.
Mm-hmm.
You are responsible for your own happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is like what you just said, you know, people say when I get the partner, when I find the person, I'll be happy. Guess what? If you're not happy now, you will not be happy later.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, but you're going to be unhappy and somebody else going to be unhappy too, because usually men, they have one thing, one mission. That's all they want their partner to be happy. They
Mm-hmm.
want their partner to be happy. That's their mission. If they're true, you know, like if they are
Mm-hmm.
the person that is right for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't love yourself and then you have this expectation, it's like they don't even know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything they do is wrong.
Yeah. And then I know people ask, what can I do on a date to, you know, make sure that I'm not nervous and coming off the best way and make sure they like me. And it's like we're just saying, if you're just happy with yourself, if you're just going out there and learning about another person and just what's going on and see if there's a good flow, that's really where it starts. Like you're saying, like just bring this happy person, because that's what a guy is going to want to see. He's just going to want to see someone is comfortable in their own skin. And that's how you convey that. And I just couldn't give any better advice to say how to show up on a date is just be happy, you know, just
Just
but
be
like from
yourself and
within.
be you know, be yourself. But one of the things is, and I hear that everybody saying be yourself, be yourself, but
Yeah.
some people don't even know who they are, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And so when you tell them be yourself, they truly don't know what that means. What does that mean, being myself? And that's another big red flag. If you don't have it, if somebody say, your coach, your dating coach say, like Andrea, be yourself, and you have no idea what that means, that's a huge red flag. That means that you need to do some internal work,
Mm-hmm.
and you better start like yesterday. Yesterday was the day to begin.
Yeah, I remember that word internal work. I always feel like almost a year everyone would be like, how are you? I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm doing a lot of internal work right now, but I'm getting through it, you know, like I just had to fully admit it. I just called it out. I called it what it was. I was like, and then they're like, oh man,
Yeah, it was from like the
yeah,
beginning.
it
It's like, oh,
sucks.
I'm totally good, to the end. And like, this is taking a lot of work.
Oh, but keep pushing through, keep pushing through. The other topic I kind of want to talk about, because this was a big issue for me too, is perfectionism. So I felt like this was another big hindrance as to why I wasn't able to see the right guys as a good option. And it was just, again, the standard that I was holding to myself. And do you think, again, this is kind of more that comes from society and this kind of need to be perfect, or like you're saying, just need to present yourself a certain way. And, I don't know, are we scared to show our flaws? Like, where is this all coming from?
It's a lot of elements, but especially, it's the way you're brought up in society and the standard that we have created as a society was supposed, like the standard of beauty, for instance. Like if you look at Hollywood now, there's more diverse. Like now they're bringing new type of beauty into the big screen, but that was not the case before. The
Mm-hmm.
case was like this really, skinny kind of Barbie type of woman, which you look so much like it. I mean, you were so the amazing thing that working with you, it was like, it was so interesting that you have all those features of like this beautiful, amazing, tall woman model, but not able to see that in herself, not able to appreciate how beautiful she was. And to me, that was like mind blowing, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a Latina woman, I'm very curvy. I love my curves, but that wasn't like a standard that was appreciated. And then now we have, now it's different. But it's basically those standards that we create for ourselves that we want to measure up to.
Mm-hmm.
But when you ask the person, like, they don't even know where they're coming from with that. And it's created based on like we've been criticized, we've been told that we're not pretty, we've been made fun of by other kids, we've been bullied, all those things plays a role. And then all that sort of like piles up. And if you don't heal those things, they're going to come up. They're going to, it's like almost like a backpack that you carry with you everywhere you go. And then you start projecting those things, because that's the other thing. It's fascinating that other emotions, but it's like something that you don't have to talk about it. When you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, everybody can see it. You see, you try to hide something that is so obvious. Because
Mm.
you were saying before, like how your mom, your fiance, all of them, your friend, they can see this new you.
Yeah, they can see a definite change in me.
Exactly. So that way, the way they see you now, they also were able to see that other person that was in pain.
Mm.
And that other person was projecting that pain. Even when you think, no, well, I don't talk about my personal things.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Everybody can see that something is not clicking. We
No.
try to hide it so badly, but there's no way to hide these things.
Yeah, and I think the point to make too is just that, again, it wasn't so obvious in my case, and it certainly wasn't obvious to me. And I think it was only working with you, which we weren't even in the same city, so we were able to do it like this, right?
Yeah, like this.
So fantastic. But it was pretty much that moment where I actually did stop and ask for help, because I didn't know what I was doing wrong. I just knew I didn't want that to keep going. And so the process had to begin of, why is this happening? And again, ultimately it came down to me and the way I was perceiving myself, how I was perceiving, the good options. There's a lot that goes into it, which is just almost fascinating. But if you can start there, even if you don't think that it's necessary, just start there and see what happens. Ask the questions, like you're saying, why am I attracting these people? It's all happening for a reason, right? Like we
Yeah.
don't think it is. Jump off the autopilot, put your hands on the wheel, start driving your own car, and let's get to where we want to go.
Take charge of your life, become
Yeah.
responsible. And that's why it's so people are so afraid, because if they acknowledge that something is happening, if they acknowledge it,
Yeah.
now they cannot continue doing that. They need to do something. And
Yeah.
so that's when the fear comes in. Oh, now I cannot blame anybody. I cannot blame
Right.
him for
Yeah.
doing that. If I'm gonna take responsibility, it's not his fault. So whose fault it is? That's it.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, numero
Uh-oh.
uno.
I don't know, boo. It's just not working.
Oh my goodness, but thank you so much. So we have covered so much today. I'm looking at my notes here and I'm like, wow, we've definitely covered everything that I think we wanted to, which was amazing. And that's only the tip of the iceberg, right? Which is great. And I think with a lot of things, like we can understand, the concepts and the principles, but until we're actually working with a coach one-on-one and really kind of turn that mirror on, oh my God, the great story, we have to end on this. And this was a big one too. You were the person who kept saying that whole, everyone is a mirror to us. And I kept being like, you kept saying it to me. It just wasn't clicking. I didn't get it. And then again, my mom, again, for the longest time, she was always pointing out my front tooth, which happens to be slightly misshaded. because it's a root canal, it's a dead tooth and all that kind of jazz. And she keeps going, are you going to, are you going to fix that? Are you going to fix it? Are you going to fix it? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Like, I don't want to fix it. Like, leave me alone. Like, stop picking on me. And then I had her out here about 6 months ago. And then all of a sudden she walks up to me and she goes, do my teeth look okay? Are they too long? And I'm like, oh my God, you have an issue with your teeth and you have been putting that on me for so long. Oh my God, like, stop it. And then it all went back to why she wanted me. She always goes, oh, your hair, because she has thin hair and I have thick hair. And I work out, she does it. I was like, oh my gosh, you are putting all of your things on me. And it was so freeing. And it was just one of those things where, again, if I hadn't been speaking to you and just been attuned to these things, I would have just still been like,
you never would have noticed that, because this is what we do. We project our fears into other people. Mm-hmm. And so think about that, how your mom projected those fear into you. And now you projected those fear into your partner, into your friends, and then, you expect them to be compassionate and to love you and to validate you. They can't. They also have their own fear on top of that. So so think about all that. It's fascinating, really.
And the men, and I always think, again, now that I have such an understanding of how much I was bringing to the table, let's also think about these men that we're meeting. They're not the perfect human being. They're coming to the table with their fears and their upbringings and their, And
honestly, Andrea, is worse for them, because if you think about how society, what have done to the men, is like they're not even able to speak about their emotion. It's a no, right? I mean, if a boy start crying, what's the first reaction? Boys don't cry. You see that? And so they have a lot of suppressed stuff inside, you see. And then what happening is, right now we're in a verge of like a really, with the Me Too movement and all this happening, right? That I see that as a great opportunity, really, to create a new way of relating to one another, a new way of communicating, instead of seeing as men as monster, right? Because everything that had happened, but also as women's also commit, this type of thing as well. So let's not be so, oh, men are all monster. No, there are really great men out there. And you can testify because you have one of them, right? And so the idea is that we have an opportunity now to create a new way of communicating with each other, a new way of loving each other in a new terms. And we can start those terms.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I was weirdly, when I started dating him, I actually was dating differently, in the sense of this. I actually said, this is the guy I should date. And because he was a good guy. And I was like, but all the other ones hadn't worked, obviously, the one that was just coming out of a divorce, the one that was, had a girlfriend for 6 years while he was talking to me, all the emotionally unavailable men. So I basically was like, okay, all right, I'm going to give this a try. The real thing, because he's actually here. And then obviously I still ran into my own issues during the relationship of my own fears and triggers and stuff. And that's why I was like, okay, we'll see what I mean. But then I was like, nope, this is a good one. I know I want to figure this out. But I had to physically shift and almost force myself to date someone that, again, it was not too easy, but it was very easy. It flowed. It was good. It wasn't hard work. It was wonderful. And I would love to also, before we go into what you're going to offer the audience, which is super fun, you have just celebrated your 25th or 25 years of marriage just recently. Yay. And the best thing that you said to me was, the last 5 years have been the best. So for these good, like, relationships, it gets better.
Well, I think that one of the things that we need to understand is, like, what is a relationship? Like, it is possible to have a great relationship. It is very possible, but it does take work, because you are meeting somebody else different than you, an individual, different not different, like, even if you're from the same town or whatever, but different upbringing, different values.
Two complex humans together.
Exactly. And so the idea is that, it's sort of like that idealistic idea of love, this movies type of thing where, like, everything is always perfect, that we need to come into term and know that that's not real love.
Mm.
The real love is commitment. The real love is to have each other's back, to
Mm.
be able to tell the other person how I feel without feeling judged, to be able to talk, to spend time. I mean, the best time that I spend with my husband is like laughing. Like he has a very kind of dark sense of humor, and I just love that. We're just laughing all the time. And it's not perfect. He has his thing where like he gets upset about like really little things.
Yeah.
But those are his things. He's not perfect. So, if I concentrate on those annoying things,
Yeah.
then we wouldn't have a relationship that we have. But I choose to see what's right.
Yeah, I agree. When with my now fiance, when I was focusing on the 5 things that he wasn't doing, I wasn't giving him credit for the 30 plus things that he was doing.
Exactly.
That almost just felt so wrong on my part. And yeah, no wonder he couldn't win with me.
Or then.
Yeah, but yeah. So you have a offer that you would love to share with the audience in February. So why don't you go ahead and tell us what that is?
Well, before we go into that, I just wanted to say to
Oh,
everybody
yes.
that they can find my book on Amazon.
Perfect.
It became #1 best-selling. It was really amazing, and I mean, you heard Andrea. The feedback is amazing. It's
Mm-hmm.
a compilation of real tools, things that you can do to start your journey of transformation, like
Mm-hmm.
inner transformation. And for February now, because it's of course the month of love and relationship, I'm doing an introductory offer, and you will see it on. Is there going to be a link
Yep.
where you can click on? And I, before I start working with anybody, and you know that, Andrea, I always talk to them first. So I'm offering a free consultation, and we can go over like deep into what's going on, finding out what is sabotaging the relationship if you have it now, or what is it that you're not able to find it in your head, you think you're not able to find it, and how we can start shifting that,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a real thing. I mean, if you're in the right frequency, I call it the right vibration, right?
Yeah.
Then you will get the right person.
Mm-hmm. And trust me, I guess coming to you, I didn't think, again, wasn't into the whole coaching thing, but I just loved your style. I loved how direct you were. I love that you were honest. I love that you cursed. I was like, oh man, this girl's super
Yeah,
cool.
I behave during the interview, right? But I
Yeah.
do a lot of that because I think that we have suppressed. Ever since we were kid, we were told not to do this, not to say that, not to behave like this, not to look at this, and it's basically created all these limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I'm very respectful, and I try to behave appropriately when the time is warrant for that. But also, I think that we need to be a little more spontaneous,
Mm-hmm.
not so like suppressing everything and trying to be this perfect person that we're not.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you start sort of releasing those things, doesn't it feel like so freeing?
Oh my gosh, like
It's
I
like,
have the most crazy calmness about everything and peacefulness and bliss, and it's so weird that
woohoo.
it's like I just had to do it with me, but then everything else just fell into place, and it was just, again, I'm so happy to be on this side. Like I always say, people, even my fiance was like, how do I know this is for real? And I was like, well, trust
Oh,
me, you
poor
can
thing.
to go back to who I was. Hell no. I was always like, I'll go back to high school. I'm like, hell no, I did not go through all this journey to
Yeah,
ever go back to
yeah,
high school or college or anything. Yes, it was fun, but I've worked so
yeah.
hard to be where I am. So I love where I am right now. Well, thank you,
Well,
Yudy.
that's
You have been a
interesting.
beauty today. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us, and happy anniversary as well. That is super, super amazing and very, whew, 25 years. That's incredible. So
It is. It
yeah.
is. It doesn't feel like 25 years. And I was about to say that, when I went through my own transformation, my husband actually said to me, when is the old Judy's coming back? Because
Mm,
I don't know how to behave with this new one. And I said, well, we're going to get used to her, and we're going to train you to do that. We're going to work it out together, because the old one is not coming back. And I wanted to say thank you for inviting me to your show. And I love seeing the transformation. Very proud of the work that you have done, really, because it does take work.
mhm.
I always say being depressed and anxious and stressed doesn't take any work. Just go into the highway and you right away you're there. but to gain confidence and happiness and feel good in your own skin, it takes some work.
Yeah.
And please allow yourself to ask for help, because you will get the help. The right person for you will be there to help you.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so very much.
We'll hear more from you. And like I said, check out the book. It's amazing. She shares all of her stories and her tricks in the trade. It is an amazing book. So go get yourself one, because it's probably the cheapest advice you'll ever get in a way, but because it's, you know, I read so many books on my journey, but nothing beats the real thing. So thank you, Yudy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.